MPix, delivering the highest quality prints and products from your photos. Shoot today, upload tonight, we ship tomorrow.
Welcome to Photoshop User TV, brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And now, here are your hosts, the Photoshop guys.
Hey everyone, welcome to Photoshop User TV. I'm Pete Collins, and this is a minute show today.
Minute, it's very, very, very
tiny, teeny,
small, tiny.
This show couldn't be done without help from our sponsor, Photoshop User magazine.
It's my magazine and yours.
Well done. To my right is Corey Barker, illustrator extraordinaire.
Thank you.
And
Glad
to my left, Mr. Curmudgeon, RC.
Hey everybody, what's going on,
Concepcion. How are you doing today?
Good, good, good.
You're looking svelte.
A little.
Very svelte.
You caught him off guard on that.
I got you on svelte. You're not used to being called svelte?
No, svelte's one of those things that I just don't really get that much anymore.
It's a classy word. You don't hear it much.
I like it.
It's got a
good diction.
After this, we're going to go traipsing and gallivanting.
Wow.
There we go.
Wow. You said you had a minute episode today.
Minute. Oh, yes.
It's so minute that we thank you for joining us. We'll see you next. No, I'm just kidding.
That was it. Thank you. Well, the wonderful thing about this show today is we're going to hear all kinds of stuff, and we're going to start with a quick tip from Mr. Corey Barker.
Quick tip indeed. Yes. Actually something that really appeals to you Mac users out there. When Photoshop CS5 came out, they added a handy little feature called the application frame. Now, if you've been working with Photoshop on a Windows-based system, then you're used to this. You've seen the application frame. It's pretty much standard in there. The good thing about it on the Mac system is that it is an option. You can turn it on or off. And at first I was very reluctant. I was like, I don't really like the application frame. I know RC, you really liked it when it came on board.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
And I discovered, and this was actually RC that really kind of helped me with this, is that it's really great when you're recording tutorials because you can contain everything into your small screen area. But I personally, when I'm working, still like to have the background. I still like it the old way. But in order to turn that feature on and off, you have to go down to the window menu, then drag down here and choose application frame. And who has that kind of time to drag down a menu for half a second? But here is a cool little trick. If you're like me and you like to switch between the application frame and not quite often, is go ahead and open up your Actions panel. So I'm just going to go in here and open up the Actions panel. And we're just going to create a new action. So let's go into the Flat menu here, choose New Action. And we'll call it App Frame.
It's very apropos.
And it's typing very, very slowly. OK. So I'm going to assign a hotkey to this. Let's go and assign a function key of F2. I'm going to add the Shift key to it, just in case you don't, activate it accidentally. You have to add that extra key. So hit record. But I'm not recording any steps here. I'm just going to go ahead and immediately click the stop button, because I don't want it to record anything I'm doing. What I am going to do is go into the Flyout menu of the Actions panel once again and go down here and choose Insert Menu Item. And then simply go down to Window and choose Application Frame. And click OK. So now that action, all it's doing is simply loading the application frame. And now because I've signed it to that hotkey, I'll just close that panel. Now all I got to do is just simply press Shift F2. And it brings me into the application frame. Shift F2 again brings me out of the application frame. So it's just a really good way of using actions. And this is another thing that people tend to forget about actions, is that yes, they can record long, complicated steps, but you can assign very simple functions like that. Just switch you to a different move, or opening up a panel or something like that that doesn't necessarily have a hotkey. But yeah, I can just now switch through that off and on anytime I need it, right on the fly.
Especially if you find yourself doing something over and over again, and it's just that quick little thing that if you can eliminate a couple seconds.
Some people get in the habit of they'll keep going to the menu and dragging down, get the menu dragging down. They get used to it. They don't realize that they can save themselves a lot of frustration by just adding a little hot button like that. So
that's great. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. And now to continue on, RC Concepcion.
We got a quick tip over here. Thank you very much for that here. Now, we were over in Vegas. We're doing a little bit of shooting. And I shot this image that we have here of a Buddha. But I had ran into a couple of different problems that I wanted to be able to kind of solve inside of Photoshop. Problem number one, I was really, really nervous about taking this shot. So I set up really, really quickly. I shot as fast as I could, and then I was out, because you couldn't really shoot in this one area. This is one of those clubs that you just have to go really dressed up into. But I did want to do some stuff inside of Photoshop with this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click, I'm going to edit inside of Photoshop. And you'll notice that when you're working with this, there's actually a couple of different problems, right? Not only do you have a rotational problem, but you also have a bit of a problem with skew, right? Because you figure the plane of where they were sitting and the plane of where the camera was is a little bit off, so it looks like it's actually dipping in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click right here on the background layer to be able to unlock it. Once I have that unlocked, more often than not, people think that it's just a question of just kind of transforming to be able to fix that. But before I do, what I want to do is I want to get rid of the crop. Using my crop tool, you're going to notice that you have an option here that allows us to be able to take all of this information and be able to crop by a specific amount. Right here, once you do this, you'll notice that at the very, very top, you have an option to be able to either delete all of the information that you're cropping or hide it. For me, I like to be able to hide the information and go back to it later. Once I have that set, I'll go ahead and bring myself in here a little bit, get it kind of where I would want it. And truthfully, what I'm using is kind of like a symmetry mark for these pictures is this part right here. I'm using this top handle to be able to line up with this one section over here. So any crops that I'm doing, I'm going to go based on that. And I don't want to be able, I want to be able to keep these two dots and these two dots because people will look for those because they're bright spots. Now, once I have that all set, it's kind of got me okay, right? But watch. If I do a transform, you'll notice that all of that information is still available to me on those corners. So I can go ahead and I can rotate and move it kind of how I need to be able to move it. But the bigger problem that you're going to run into with this is going to be some sort of transformation. So as I'm doing a Control T, what I could do is hold down the Command key and click on one of these corners. By doing that, I can go ahead and play with the skew of the image, and you'll notice that now it seems a little bit more bent in the direction that it needs to be. So sometimes that's those little tiny things that you do with these images tends to make it really, really, really important. Once I have this all set, I can go ahead and I can actually extend this, increase our canvas size, right? So if I turn around and make this crop tool and kind of drag this out, you know, all of that information is still there, but it's just hidden. And then some quick transformations kind of get you up and running really, really quickly.
And it's tiny things like that that make this a minute episode.
And people
It's very minute, very minute.
Yeah, people pick up on the little minute things. People pick up on that small detail. They go, wait a minute. Like, I was going to crop this really, really tight, and then people will be like, well, there's two dots on one side and one dot on the other side.
It's funny how those, it's like you're saying, like how those little things really turn the light on for some people. And it's just like, oh.
Stop. Stop.
So
With that, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stick around.
Well, hi, folks. We are back. So we've got another very special guest on the show this week. We're going to have a special guest tip from Mr. Joel Grimes. Fantastic.
He's cool.
Photographer and compositor. He's going to have a little tip for us in just a few moments. But first up is Pete with a quick tip for us now.
Well, as some of y'all know, I'm an artist. I love to draw. And I took this image. I drew it all strictly in Photoshop using my Cintiq from Wacom. And the thing I wanted to show you today is a lot of people who draw, and they use Photoshop, they don't realize that one of the things that can help them out is the layer styles and the layers that you can build upon your drawing to give you a depth, to apply the different filters, just like you'd use any other image in Photoshop. And for example, here's what I've drawn. I've drawn this mouse eating a piece of cheese, because that's what they do. But then what I have done is I've come in, and if you can see, I'm just going to turn this layer on and off. I've added some hair highlights. And what I've done, to add for the depth and the three-dimensionality, I can't say that word. For the 3D-ness of the...
Just go with 3D-ness.
Yeah, the 3D-ness of it. I've added a drop shadow to every stroke, so whenever I would come over here with my brush and draw a stroke, which it's not letting me do because I'm on the wrong layer, it adds the white stroke, but it also adds a drop shadow, so it gives it just a little depth to it. And then, once I've finished drawing that, another thing that I like to do is I want to create a sense of depth to it that I couldn't necessarily do as well just drawing straight on. I'm going to come up here and grab my blur tool, and I'm going to create a sense of depth by blurring the edges. I'm going to take this back ear and I'm going to start blurring on it so that it tends to give you not quite a tilt shift effect, but you start giving the image itself a sense of depth that you couldn't get from just drawing. And it would help if I add a little more strength to my blur tool. And so now when I hit the tail, it's going to be subtle on the screen, but what you can start to do is you can start to build a layered depth to it that you can't get with just drawing on your own.
Awesome. Does it 3Dify it?
3Dify, probably 2D1/2. 2.5D. But anyway, we forget as artists that we don't have to be locked into the two-dimensionality of the paper. We can use the layers to build upon and apply all the other layer styles that we do normally.
And again, it's one of those things. It's all those little details. It's just focusing on all the minute parts of something that actually takes an image that is already great over to the next level.
And Pete makes a very good point, is that, and it's something we talked about in the last episode, is how people don't take that leap in Photoshop. They thinking, well, it's just a photo tool. It's like, no, it isn't. It's just use these tools and experiment with them on your illustration. You can apply the same principles of photography, like depth of field, to illustrated images, and I think he's doing a really good job with it.
Yeah, and if you look at the final image that I've tweaked a little bit, the computer was not helping me for a minute there, but you can see the ear has now laid back down, and it's moved farther back, and it gives the character just a little more oomph.
Nice.
So it's cool.
So you shoot photography.
Shoot photography.
You draw.
I draw.
You do graphic design.
I do.
He's going to be the killer guy, guys.
He's Swiss Army Pete.
Yes. I know.
Yes.
That's pretty good. Pretty good, man. Cool.
So there you go.
All right. So why don't we do this? Let's take let's jump over to Joel Grimes.
We're going to go see Joel.
Take a break, but we can't.
We can't forget Joel.
Joel has got some cool stuff. So let's see what Joel's got, and we'll be right back.
Hey folks, Matt Kloskowski here on the set of Photoshop TV with Joel Grimes, commercial and advertising photographer, Photoshop artist. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
Well, it's great to be
We
here.
haven't seen each other in a while.
Not
since the last video the last show, yeah. When we happen to be wearing the same shirts. It's crazy how that works. Joel doesn't change his shirt. I just put mine on the side and then I just grab it every time that I do a show. Because Joel can't see green, so I always wear green to mess with him. And then I ask him if I'm really wearing green.
I'm messed up.
What's that?
I can't tell what you're wearing.
Oh, yeah. So interestingly enough, if you haven't seen Joel's work, amazing, amazing work. And you're colorblind.
It's a bizarre thing.
It's crazy. And I guess once I found out, it kind of made sense to me, because when I looked at your work, I always thought it had a very moody look to it, very dramatic, and in some cases, a slightly desaturated look to it. Yeah. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, I guess that kind of makes sense a little, because we were talking before, and you said you almost do that on purpose sometimes.
I do. I'm afraid to oversaturate, so I go the other way.
Cool. Interesting, but I mean, the work speaks for itself. I think it's a great testament to, to what you can see and you see.
I say it's the ace up my sleeve, so to speak, because really it allows me to go down a path that is unique to me.
Yeah, that's great. Anyway, so Joel is actually in town. He's in our studios in Tampa recording some classes for kelbytraining.com. And one of those classes was on shooting composites. Another one of those classes is going to be on post-processing. Part of that whole process is doing a selection, getting a good selection. So you've got a really good tip on how you can work with selections if you're doing this.
Well, CS5 has gotten a lot better than it was prior in the refined edge selection. And so, but it's still not easy. I mean, there's little ways of speeding up the process. And what I do is the most critical part for me to cut out is going to be hair. Okay. So what happens is when we go into the refined edge, typically you have to make a choice. Do you want to let that refined edge work on the hair, or do you want it to work on the whole thing? Because it's global.
Yeah.
So what happens is if I go for just a hair, then I get this little white edge that goes around the whole image. Then I got to go back in there and take it out. I can take it out later because I've brought my mask with it. And so I would just go around and clean it all up.
Yeah.
Well, I got a little technique here that allows me to globally take and just select everything but the hair and shrink it after the fact. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to put my glasses on this time.
Okay.
And so here we have Ashley that we photographed yesterday.
Yep.
And I've brought her in here. I haven't retouched her or anything yet, and I've already done a selection. So instead of spending the time to do that, let's load our selection. And it takes maybe, what, 15 seconds to do a selection, maybe 20?
Yeah, with the quick, with the quick selection tool, you just brush inside.
So here it is. Here's after I've done a little quick select. And what I want to do now is I want to bring her into the refined edge. And so since I'm hooked, I'm clicked on my quick select tool, the refined edge is sitting right up here. So I'm going to click on that. And so that brings me over into the refined edge. And I think most of us have been there now. But I have all these options here. And to me, which are global. So what I do is I typically just go in here and maybe pick up a little bit of the hair selection, okay? And then I let it do its thing. Now, I know that I'm going to have to refine the other parts. So instead of doing it now, I just go straight down here and I want to create a new mask, a layer with a mask, and I say go.
Because when you were in there, if you had, because like you said, you want to shrink your selection a little bit to get rid of that little fringe.
Just that little edge, yeah.
And if you were in there and you did that slider in the dialog box, it shifts it for the whole thing, including,
it takes the hair out.
So I guess that's the downfall of doing it there.
So normally I'm in a background somewhere. We're going to put her, tonight we're going to photograph a stadium, soccer stadium, hopefully to put her in. But for now, I've just made a blank or a black layer underneath to sort of help illustrate this. But what I do is I go over here to my lasso tool, and I'm going to pick up just lasso, starting where the hair kind of ends on her, and I go around. And again, I can do this only on certain sections of her, or I'm going to do it right now, everything but the hair. So let's go into here. And so now I've got this lasso tool that's picked that up, and I go over here to blur.
Real quick, after you make your selection, does it matter? Because you made your selection, so you're working on because you got the layer with the layer mask. So do you make your selection? Is it the selection for the layer mask? Or is it for the layer?
It's for the layer mask.
Okay.
That's you caught me there.
Oh no. I was wondering if
I was on the actual layer here.
Okay.
That's a good point. See, I get going too fast and I forget what I'm doing.
No, I didn't catch it. It was just
because I'm 53 years old and I don't know.
He's actually 54. I asked him yesterday, I'm like, Joel, how old are you? He goes, 53. And then right before we did this video, we're sitting here and somebody comes by. He said something and he goes, yeah, that's what happens when you're 54. And I was like, man, you aged a year and a day. That's what happens when you come to our studios.
Yeah, I may only be 28. I don't even know.
I think you are.
All right, so I'm on the mask itself.
So you make sure you click the layer mask to make that active. Okay.
Make my selection, okay? I go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I'm going to put a 3-ish radius. You can kind of experiment with this, but at 3 works pretty good. And so I'm going to take a 3 radius blur on that. It's going to be on the edge of that mask.
The layer mask.
The layer mask.
So you're not blurring her.
No. So we click that, and let's blow that up here. So let's go over here to where we can see. We got some. Maybe the shoulders are good here. You can see that blur edge right there.
Yeah.
Okay. And so now, once I have that, the shortcut to levels is Command L, And now watch this little blur area here. I'm going to take the far left, which is the black little diamond, slider, and I'm going to push that to the right. Now watch that selection just start to shrink.
Oh, yeah.
And so now I can go all the way over. So if, you can go really to harsh.
Oh, yeah.
But I go about maybe, right around there and say, okay. And that's globally applied it to everything but the hair. So now if I go back to my mask, make sure I'm clicking the mask, I go to my brush and pick the white and I have it on 100% opacity, 100% flow, making sure that, let's go over here, that I'm on hardness is about mid-range somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I can come back here and see where that little, there's a little bump there. Well, I can clean that up. And I can go back here and there's a little divots here that are still happening, but I can just clean those up by running along here. Now, of course, I'm not doing this very good, but I can just clean that up. And if I want to go the opposite way, which is to shrink it again, I go to black, and I can just clean it up right along here.
So I think in the end, what you're saying is it's kind of like a 2 or 3 pass process to make a good selection. It's really hard to find one tool to make a good selection for every part of the image, but you're going in there and you're kind of pulling out the different pieces that you want.
You have to clean up every refined mask. There's nothing out there that doesn't just do it all for you. Yeah. Maybe in 2 years from now.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. But here's what I say. The rule of thumb is this. When I first started doing cutouts, I would spend 3 hours doing a cutout.
Yeah, with the pen tool.
Well, yeah. But here's what I was thinking. I was expecting everyone to blow it up at a 60 by 80 print. And that's really not reality. Now, if a client says we're going to have a big old display, whatever, I will spend a little more time. But the rule of thumb is you only need to refine the mask to the point where it sells the fake.
Good point.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Joel, where can we find out more about you?
Well, my website is joelgrimes.com.
Okay.
And that's where the showcase of my, my select images and whatever. And then I have a blog, and I have tons of information on that. And you can find that at the bottom of my website. There's a link, or you can go to joelgrimesworkshops.com. And I make blog entries, a photo shoot I've done, a campaign I'm working on or whatever, and I talk about some problems and solving issues, whatever. I have some free tutorials on there and some tutorials that I've done on how my processes and stuff, but really, and my workshops.
I've been to his workshops. If you can go.
And the next one that I'm going to be having is August 21st.
August 20th, 21st.
The weekend.
Definitely. I've been out to LA and I've been to a studio, had a great weekend, and I learned a ton while I was out there. So by all means, if you can make it out to his workshops. If you can't make it out to his workshops, Joel's got his own videos over on joelgrimes.com. You can also, he's doing some classes here right now for kelbytraining.com. So look for those in a couple of months. And then make sure you stop by his website. It's very inspirational. That's the best word I can say for it. It's very, very inspirational. Joel is really, you're the pioneer in all of this stuff. You portrait compositing, where you're really, you're taking a portrait with the specific kind of goal of compositing it. He really is the pioneer. He's been doing this, for a lot longer than anybody else out there. And I always enjoy going to see your work.
Well, thank you.
I've seen the images many times, and I always go back.
Oh, good.
Anyway, Joel, thank you very much for coming by. Folks, we appreciate you watching his tip over here. I'm sure we're back in the studio. I'm sure there's somebody back in the studio to kind of back over to, so we'll see you later.
Why is lighting so hard to learn? I think it's because we're photographers. We learn by looking at other photographers' images. But yet, every book I've seen on lighting uses diagrams. Usually just a line drawing of where the subject stands and where the light goes. But what if it was more than just one photo? How about one showing the front view and the left side and the right side and the view from behind your subject? And instead of just a line drawing from above, what about an actual photo taken directly overhead the entire setup? I've never seen this done before. But once you see these views, it changes everything. But today, to get the look, it's more than just lighting. It's what you do after the shoot in Photoshop. It's the retouching. It's the special effects. It's all the post-processing that makes these photos look like they do. Every book shows you the final image, but nobody wants you to show you everything that happens from the moment the image leaves your camera to the moment you present the final image to the client. Well, I wanted to create a book like that, one that would take you all the way through the shoot, including the lighting, the equipment, all the settings, and the camera settings for a bunch of today's most popular looks, and then show you exactly how to finish those images in Photoshop without leaving anything out. I've never seen a book on lighting anything like it. It's visual, just like we are. You finally get to see everything, and once you see everything, it all just makes sense. I hope you'll check out Light It, Shoot It, Retouch It, my brand new book that I hope is really going to change the way people learn lighting.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking with us. The great thing about this show is we like to give things away, we like to teach, we like to share. And today we're going to give away something special. Corey,
yes,
what is
right.
it?
This is the part where everybody likes on the show. They don't care about any of the tips, they just want to get free stuff. Contest time indeed. So what you're going to do is go to the Kelby TV website, kelbytv.com, go to the Photoshop User TV section, go to the comments section, and tell us the formula for, no, I'm just kidding. No,
Coca-Cola Classic.
Yes, give us the Coke Classic.
I
No, not
really
the Coke
like to know
Classic.
that.
Yeah. No, not the new Coke.
No.
We digress. No, you're going to leave a comment. Tell us what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show. Give us a joke, whatever. Just leave a comment. Tell us how much you like or don't like anything, or a tip you want to see. Maybe we haven't covered a tip yet. Anything, but you're going to get picked at random by a panel of producers to get a free prize. And the prize this week is
hot off the presses.
Brand new book, Light It, Shoot It, Retouch It, the book. He's got a seminar series which is kicking butt all over the country, and he's out on tour right now. You can find out more at kelbytraininglive.com, of course. But this is the book, and it's unlike many books you've ever seen.
I think that book's going to be a smash.
Such a different way, because you got, I mean, just to kind of talk about the point, in here you've got techniques for shooting, but not only does he show it, some books they'll have a diagram of the studio, the little oval, and you know, this is the,
right.
But this, he actually set up a camera at the top of the studio and shot the way he set up the entire scenario. So it's really, you get a really good idea of how to set up the lighting and everything like that. Brilliant book by the amazing Scott Kelby, and you will get that absolutely free. So, there you go.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's an excellent book.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that concludes our time together today. RC, any parting words?
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. Good job, man. You're doing pretty good.
I expected more out of you, really, I must say. Corey?
Yes.
Do me proud.
I am a pepper.
Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too?
Wouldn't you like to be a pepper?
I'd like
it's
to be.
It's not as cool as his Pitfall shirt,
yes,
I must say.
This show brought to you by Pitfall.
And Atari. The Atari 2600.
For all you computer geeks out there. So anyway, that's it. They let me run the show today, and look what happened.
Good
Crazy.
things. Just minute things.
Minute things. It was a minute show.
We have minute notes, but we made it to the end, though.
So anyway, I want to thank you so much for being with us, and please come check us out again next week. And if you have a chance, go ahead and sign up for Photoshop World in Washington, D.C. We're all super excited about it, and we'd love to see you there.
Good deal.
Anyway, take care. We'll see you later.